Learning, growing, and getting better at things are some of the most fun parts of being alive, I think. And the motivation to change and adapt, to figure out solutions, and to make the things that we want reality are definitely some of the things that make me the happiest in life. But this narrative of always striving for improvement and becoming your best self, I do not think it's always healthy, successful, and helpful. So, in recent years, I learned that there is this whole other side of living a good life that is way less talked about, but I think is just as important. What I mean is slowing down and resting. So, let's talk about that. While I cut up all of these apples that I brought home, and I think this is actually a great example of slowing down and sometimes focusing on the smaller things. And now let's dive a bit deeper, but let's start at the beginning. So, why would I say you should not focus on always becoming your best self and constantly improving? Well, at least for me, that's the case. I always get this urge to get my life in order, to become my best self, to change everything when I'm not feeling particularly well. Unfortunately, at the same time, this is also where most of the ads, of the videos, of the books try to catch you. Like, you're in a miserable place, you're not happy with your life, so change everything and become your best version, because that is what you need to do. That is what the world deserves of you. And here I just honestly really want to say that you are enough. Like, there's nothing you need to become to be worthy of love, of shelter, of food, of not being sick. Instead of seeking out all the solutions and pushing yourself, using external factors, using your shame and guilt, it would be a great idea to just rest and take it slow. Because at least that's the case for me. If I'm not feeling well, the chances are pretty high that I'm in a stressful situation, that I'm actually overthinking, not because I'm in a bad place, but because I haven't gotten the rest I need. Enough sleep, no drama, time for yourself, maybe even time that is spent in solitude, where you're not distracted by anything, but where you can actually focus on your thoughts and yourself. If that's not something that works for you, then on the other hand, doing something that allows you to get out of spiraling thoughts. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's being surrounded by nature. I don't know what you need, but getting into a state of rest and space, allowing yourself to just be there, I think this works wonders. I think taking care of yourself comes before trying to push yourself to do other stuff. This is especially true because I think if you use your frustration to try to become your best self, then you're not focused enough, and then you can't really work at it from a peaceful mind and actually learn what the things that are important to you, how your best self would even look. Instead, you maybe just use the things that you hate about yourself or that you think society expects of you, and that is not going to turn out into a successful and happy life, and not even the best version of you of any kind. Further, the problem with self-improvement as a means to get out of a slump can lead to false promises. You think, like, if you just have the perfect morning routine, if you just make more money, then you would be happy. But the problem is that many of life's struggles and difficulties can actually not be solved by a good morning routine, not be solved by money, and not be solved by being your best self. But now let's talk a bit more about like a long-term strategy of trying to achieve your best self and trying to become your best self. And for that, I do want to say that we're of course always kind of walking between the extremes of I'm focusing all of my energy on the future and I'm kind of forgetting the everyday pleasures I have now. And I think that is really important to not do. And then on the other hand, of course, it won't help and it won't be a good idea in the long term if you just focus on right now and never waste the thought on the future. So you're never working towards anything. That is also not what I mean. So how does my approach actually look when I say I do want to, instead of focusing on becoming my best self, slow down and rest, and why I think this can actually be a better strategy long term? Let's actually put that here. So one thing you might not be surprised is consumerism. I think there are a lot of ads focusing on exactly that. They want to sell you a better version of yourself, being more healthy, being more clean, being more successful, more likable, more happy, just more pleasure, things like that. And by falling for these advertisements and by buying stuff because of these advertisements, we're usually actually doing the opposite. So what I suggest is doing a low buy, and that is also what I do. A low buy and not a no buy, because I do not think that consumerism or consuming anything in itself is necessarily bad. I mean, we're consuming stuff all the time, no matter if it's like content online, if it's food for our survival, or buying new clothes, new soap to wash ourselves, toothbrushes. There are many things that really make sense to consume and that we do need to buy on a regular basis. But because we've learned to consume our whole lives, I think it does make sense to actually stop the consumption the way we've done it until now and actually really learn what the things are that do bring us joy and what the things are that will end up making our houses cluttered and making us more stressed and then do not get us closer to our dream selves. So that can be the case for workout equipment, that can be the case for food items, it can be the case for vacations even, because no, not every experience is always worth all the money. And I think a really good example of that is also clothes. We buy things because we think they belong to our future self, they would make us better people, they would make us more likable and everything. And in the end, what usually happens is that we do not know what to wear and that we're stressed out by our wardrobes and that we do not have personal style and that we're just not happy. I thought that not buying, yes, it just makes more sense because you don't waste the money, but it's actually amazing how much happiness and contentment it brought me to not have a current fluctuation of stuff, to not always feel this need to buy new things, to not even have this urge to always browse websites and stores and think about the next thing that I might want to buy. So by just having a low buy as a default, I saved a ton of money for sure, but I also just saved so much time and peace of mind because honestly, I do have everything I need. And the 100 things that I could have bought, I'm pretty sure maybe only 5 would have made my life better. The rest of them, 95, would have made my life worse. And therefore, I do not think it would have even been worth it to buy these 5 things. Another really important thing that I think actually already ties into the wording of trying to be your best self and trying to always improve and becoming the best version of yourself and things like that is that I think in the long term it makes sense to completely get rid of perfection. So I think your best self, that already kind of sounds like 100% of your potential, that sounds like perfection, that sounds like something that you have like a fixed idea of, but then also you can never really achieve because there's always a possibility to be even better. And I think that's the problem with perfectionism and perfection in general. It's not really something that is compatible with life. Because I think life is just something that's always changing. Your information always changes. You learn more things. You need different things. And you are human and you need rest. and you need other stuff, and you fail and you make mistakes and you're unmotivated. And yes, we do not have to then say like, okay, then let's not even try. That's not what I mean. But I mean that perfection is usually causing more stress than possibilities to actually become happy. So what I try to do is to focus on doing things like 70% or so, something that just feels like good enough to me. And that counts for every area of my life. This might sound controversial to some, but I think it's good enough if I'm like 70% of a perfect mother, if I'm 70% of a perfect employee, if I'm 70% happy with the YouTube videos I publish, and if I'm 70% happy with the diet I eat and my routines and the amount I work out, things like that. That does not mean that I don't improve. That does not mean that I don't learn. That does not mean that I'm not a good person in these areas. But it does mean that I'm not beating myself up if I'm not happy with what I achieved one day. Because I know like it's fine, another day will come and I will try my best. But my best does not mean sacrificing myself in the process, but it means trying to give whatever I have while still staying sane, getting enough sleep, and taking care of myself too. And then another thing that I think is really important when it comes to living a good life, not focusing on becoming your best self, but rather slowing down and also rest, is holding yourself accountable. And now I think, when I thought about it, I thought that this is more so a thing that you need to do if you have these big goals, if you strive to become your best self. Because then you need to hold yourself accountable to actually go to the gym every single day, to get up at 6 a.m., to eat the diet you've chosen for yourself, to work on your goals. But I don't mean it in that way. I think holding yourself accountable can also be a really, really useful tool if you slow down and if you take into consideration your values and the things that are important to you. And this is again not necessarily a fully developed plan and a written down ideology, nothing like that. But it's making sure you actually take care of yourself, you actually take rest when you need it, making sure to do focus on the things that are important to you, but to keep yourself and other people in mind and to not blindly follow goals that you set for yourself years ago. I think this is a really important one because sometimes when we're following these dreams, we completely forget to adapt and to readjust because we're changing people, and so our goals and our ideas change as well. And so what I try to do is, yes, I give into dreams and plans. I try to make things happen because that's beautiful. I try to learn, and sometimes I have like a special interest and I focus on that for some months. But then I don't beat myself up if that changes and I'm interested in something else. And if the idea, the story I'm telling myself about myself changes, that's okay too. And if for a month I'm not really making progress or I don't feel like I'm the best human being and I'm not the best version of myself, then maybe I need rest and I can try again. But it doesn't mean I need to make double the progress during the next month, or that I failed, or that I have to make a super detailed plan to get back on track. Because no, I think the human experience is just living, looking around you, doing the best out of your current situation. And I again mean by best, keeping yourself sane and happy and healthy as well. So I am done and I filled all of my 3 things here. Oh my god, with apples. Now I have to reorganize them so they can dry properly. Okay. See, this is the mess that life sometimes makes out of our beautiful plants. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I do want to also say a special thank you to all of my patrons. They get an extra podcast episode every single week, and I do want to link your video, so I do hope to see you there on my Patreon or in my next video. And until then, don't beat yourself up. Have a happy autumn time. Don't shop too much. take care of yourself, and I see you again soon. Bye bye.